My name is Dave Baxter. I am currently, let's start with current, and then I'll walk us back to how I got here, but I started up a show called the Wine and Comics Pairing Show on YouTube about a little over a year ago. We had our 1-year anniversary Thanksgiving of 2023. So that's, we launched Thanksgiving of 2022. And it's a show where I've been a longtime comics reader, and I've in the last decade become a huge wine nerd. And I had a best friend that also was a wine nerd and a comics reader, and I was like, you want to do this? We're gonna pair the two together. Literally, we didn't have guests at first, we just would talk about a comic that we were loving, pair it with the wine, talk about why. Really quirky, weird, niche of a niche kind of a show. And then it sort of caught on, and I started befriending a lot of the comic creators online, and started to invite them onto the show. Then we started talking about their comics in specific. And now we are here today where we have launched the Wine and Comics Publishing, which is, and our very first book, ArmageddonQuest, is now on Kickstarter. That's who I am as of right now. I live in Los Angeles. I'm in the film and TV world. I work for Sundance currently. So this is all my side passion project type of thing. I have worked in the comics world in the past. I worked in editorial for some very small publishers. I worked at this one place called Space Dog Entertainment, published through Top Cow, through Image, through Ape Entertainment while they existed, if anyone remembers Ape Entertainment. And Space Dog was a really interesting group because it was kind of a vanity project for the founder and CEO of the company. Roger Minshif was his name. They're all gone now, so I can talk a little smack about this. I met a lot of great creators while I was working there. I met a lot of great writers, a lot of great artists, but what I didn't realize when I was first hired by Space Dog is that they would ghostwrite under the CEO's name. And so he was ostensibly the writer of Space Dog Entertainment comics, but it was actually this cavalcade of other actual comic writers who were writing other books, but then this paid really well, which was shocking. But he paid them well to ghostwrite, not get the credit, and so that was sort of the trade-off. So the books were interesting, let's put it that way. They were in that Top Cow vein. I will say that they found a great home with Top Cow during the years that they were in operation. The CEO of Space Dog had a very Aspen kind of aesthetic to the types of things he wanted to tell. Very like sexy, glamorous characters in these highfalutin genre worlds. But then I met a couple of creators where they had their own creator-owned stuff as well. We bonded, we became friends. The next thing I did with comics is I knew all these creators. They were struggling to get their names out there, to get their creator works picked up by publishers, to get gigs that paid well with bigger publishers, not just the small indie guys. And so I basically collected about 20 of them and said, look, if I'm in LA, if I started basically a literary agency and started representing you guys, like I can't pitch you as part of editorial of a comic book production company because I can't pitch you to the competition while you're here, and I can only get you so far. Here, each company is looking for what they're looking for. They want what they want. If your stuff doesn't fit that, I'm limited. But if I represent you, I can take you everywhere. And I can find the publishing companies that are looking for this genre, your kind of voice, your kind of work. So me and actually my co-host of Wine and Comics Pairing Show, Dallas Miller, we were both in LA. We were both in sort of at the time I was just publishing, not film and TV. Dallas had the film and TV connections. And so we launched this literary agency with 20 creators called Killing the Grizzly. It's a fun, quirky little title. Back in the day, there was this sort of TED Talk about breaking it and publishing. And it was all about, there was this quote going around online, and this guy basically said, people always ask me, how do I make it as a writer? How do I break it in publishing? And he's like, but asking me that is kind of like asking me how to kill a grizzly. And it's like, I can train you on guns, knife fighting, like all the ways to kill a grizzly, but that's not what you actually need to know. What you need to know are the survival skills before you get to the grizzly, like how do you, like tracking and hunting and camping and surviving in the wilderness, and like these are the skills you actually need to know in order to wind up killing a grizzly. And don't sick the PETA on me, this was all metaphorical. He's like, so I can't tell you how to kill the grizzly, but I can teach you how to get to the point where you have the shot of killing your own grizzly. So we were a literary agency that helped people kill their own grizzly and try and break it in the world. So we were called Killing the Grizzly. At the time, I didn't know how the film and TV world worked. So my naivety, I think, really worked out in my favor, because I just sort of like cold called all these like really big agencies in the film and TV world that should not have given me the time of day or returned my call. But then one of the 3 top agencies ICM did, I think because we were comics, and this was like 2007, 2008, like Iron Man had just dropped. Everyone was, you know, comic crazy. Hollywood now is embedded in comics. Like, they own their own comic companies, they have their contacts there. At the time, they didn't know how to deal with comics. They didn't have any contacts in the comic world. So when we came in with all these creators, they were like, oh, come on in, let's have a meeting. So we took a meeting. Again, not knowing how big they were, I was not nervous at all when I went in for this meeting. I was just like, oh, we have a meeting with this random ass agency in LA, let's go. So we sat down and we, after that one meeting, inked a co-agenting deal with them where they would basically shop it for ancillary rights for film and TV. So we had a really good run with this literary agency. The only thing that kind of killed it actually was really Kickstarter and crowdfunding. It was like 5.5 to 6 years that we did this agency full time. And it's a grind. I mean, you're hawking other people's wares 24/7, and the lifestyle, it was fun for a few years. And after a little while, you're just sort of like, you know, just to keep the lights on and pay the bills, it's never ending. You're always pitching, you're always taking meetings, you're always sending emails and following up. And I was ready for a 9-to-5 job again, I think, after all that time. And Kickstarter was on the rise. We were starting to tell creators to go to Kickstarter to launch their first book. And that would then give us something that we could go to publishing companies for ICM, for the film and TV rights. It's like, well, if you make a lot of money on Kickstarter, that's something, that's a start. Whereas if you haven't even done that, all of a sudden this became like a missing piece where people didn't want to talk to you if you didn't even have that. Which isn't to say, because even today, crowdfunding is still not the same as getting a direct market book out there. Like, no one sees it as being the same level. No one from traditional media sees it as being the same level. But if you haven't even done that, we found that was that toe in the door. Whereas without it, you didn't even have that. But then that rise of Kickstarter basically kind of invalidated what we were doing in a lot of ways. Because once creators had it on Kickstarter, they kind of didn't need us. They could simply solicit, you know, like any of these companies and just say, hey, look, I have this Kickstarter over here. Look at how much money it made. And they were in. We were kind of becoming obsolete. The idea of agents in the comic book world was quirky to begin with. It's not something you really see. We were really the only exclusively comic book literary agency that existed. So it was a quirky thing that worked for a little while. We finally closed up shop. I kind of took a break from comics after that. I went into the film TV world. I became a creative executive at a small production company for Nielsen for a number of years, the TV ratings company for anyone who's not familiar with Nielsen, and now I'm at Sundance. So I joined Sundance in 2019, right before the lockdowns happened, and this was December 2019. It was a remote, at-home, digital, all online job from the get-go. So when the lockdowns happened, it was funny because like nothing changed in my life. And for the first month of the lockdowns, I had to keep reminding myself something weird was going on in the world. I was just sort of like, oh, like I'd go out to Trader Joe's and I'd be like, oh shit, right, social distancing line, and like, or, you know, I'd look at the LA Times and it's all in the news. And obviously after about a month of that, it became the thing to talk about for everyone. But there was those few weeks, that 1 month where everyone was skeptical that it was gonna last, that it was really that big of a thing, that, you know, and I never left my fucking apartment anyway. So I was just kind of like, yeah, life is, I go shopping every once in a while and take long walks by myself outside. That's it. So I have a whole home gym that like I had already accumulated over the years because I don't like going to public gyms. So I was just sort of like, I was in a weirdly perfect position for this to happen where like nothing was upset with what I was doing. But my thing with Sundance, I work for their digital branch, which is called Collab. And so the Sundance collab, we have a website online, we have Discord servers for screenwriters, TV writers, producers, and directors. That's who we basically cater to. We do online education for all of those things. We do webinars and online events and Q&As, and we did help set up the digital side of Sundance during the lockdowns because that did not exist before the lockdowns. And then Sundance, it was something that they knew was on the roadmap in the future. And then we had 2 years where they were purely digital, and we were the ones that knew how to hold digital events and digital screenings and, you know, panels and things like that. So we had to teach the rest of the Institute how to put those on, how to have security for them, so on and so forth. So we were very instrumental in getting that up and running in the first place. And now it's a hybrid festival every year where there's the digital side and the physical side. And I'm the coordinator for like all the events and all the everything, pretty much. And we are a very small team. We're like 12 people on the digital side, so it's not huge. So I've kind of had my journey through the film TV world, never really looked back at comics until we started up essentially the Wine and Comics Pairing Show, and this sort of rekindled my love for the whole thing. The baby steps, and there weren't many, but like I posted a few things on social media just for fun, like these wine and comics pairings where I was like, I'm reading comics every night and drinking wine every night. So, you know, and I knew wine people on social media would always be like, what I'm sipping tonight and blah, 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 and da, da, da. And I'm like, okay, well, and you know, comics people always post what they're reading currently and like thoughts on that. But I'm like, well, I do both pretty much all the time. So I posted a few, tagged the creators, and the response was all like, this is really cool. And I was like, oh, okay, it's not just fucking weird. It is, but it's not just fucking weird. So I'm like, all right, well, I have fun doing this. And I still, like, I have a glass of wine like every night, pretty much without fail, unless I'm traveling or they're very, like, I'm sick as a dog, so I can't taste anything, so I'm not wasting good wine when I can't taste anything, and so that doesn't happen then. I live in an apartment here in LA. I have somewhere in the vicinity of 350 bottles at my house right now in 3 different wine fridges, 3 different wine racks, and I still have shit shoved away in a closet and under the bed and whatnot. So it's like I have a storage problem, not a drinking problem, is what I like to say. It's like if I was an alcoholic, I wouldn't have the storage problem. So, and I do go, every once in a while I will do a little dry period, nothing like a dry January, not a whole month. That's like, I just don't have fun doing that. But I'll go a couple days here and there just to prove to myself that it's like I don't get antsy. I'm not like getting twitchy because I haven't had my glass of wine. It's not an addiction. I can stop if I ever had to, but we love it. So why would we until that, you know, it proves to be a health problem in some sort of way which, you know, to my hope is that wine is the only alcoholic beverage that has any evidence that it is health positive for you versus and no other alcoholic beverage gets that. Everything else is like, it's at least a little detrimental to your health. Like you can partake in moderation, but you're not getting anything out of it. And wine is actually like, you might actually come out the other end slightly better in your heart health. Once again, Wine and Comics Pairing Show, that's where you'll find us and what we do outside of the Kickstarters. Follow along there. We are always deep diving into lesser known series or brand new series or, you know, a new crowdfunding series. And now we are here today where we have launched the Wine and Comics Publishing, which is, and our very first book, ArmageddonQuest, is now on Kickstarter. Ronald Russell Roach, the creator of ArmageddonQuest, made this entire series between 1984 and 1992. This is the coming-of-age tale of the Antichrist. And it's a coming-of-age story about finding your own path, finding your own way, being the person you want to be rather than the person people say you're supposed to be, all dressed in an honest-to-God epic that ends in the event of Armageddon. Whether you think you're gonna like that or not, like, we're finding a new audience for it.